Why did Madoff victims face such a long recovery? Imagine losing everything you thought was safe and watching your savings vanish overnight. That's what happened to thousands of victims of the Madoff pyramid scheme. When Bernard Madoff's fraud unraveled in December 2008, it was one of the biggest financial scandals in history. The scheme had been running for decades, with fake statements showing about $64 billion in assets. But in reality, there was very little actual money left. The victims thought they had millions, but most of it was just numbers on paper. Once the scheme collapsed, they faced a long road to recovery. Recovering money from such a large fraud is not simple. The legal system in the United States involves agencies like the Securities Investor Protection Corporation and a court-appointed trustee. Their job is to sell off whatever assets are left and try to return as much money as possible. But Madoff had very few personal assets left. Most of the money had already been paid out to early investors or spent. This meant the trustee had to go after third parties, like feeder funds that pooled money from many investors and then sent it to Madoff. Untangling these relationships took years of legal battles. Another challenge was the sheer number of victims, more than 50,000 people worldwide. Many had invested through feeder funds, which made it harder to determine who was owed what. The process of recovering funds involved legal fights to reclaim profits that early investors had withdrawn. These profits were not part of the original investment, so victims could only claim what they actually put in. This cash-in, cash-out rule meant many victims received less than they expected. Calculating these amounts was complicated because some records were missing or incomplete. Recovery efforts did bring in billions of dollars over time, thanks to settlements and court judgments. One of the biggest recoveries was from the estate of Jeffrey Pickauer, which returned over $7 billion to the victims. Other recoveries came from feeder funds and Madoff's associates. Still, the process was slow. Distributions happened in multiple rounds over many years. The final payments were not made until 2025, more than 16 years after the scheme's collapse. By then, victims had received over 90% of their original principal. This long recovery process shows how difficult it is to get justice after a massive fraud. Legal systems can recover a lot of money, but the process takes time. It also highlights the importance of transparency and good record-keeping. The Madoff case teaches us that catching and recovering from such schemes is a slow and complicated task. It's a reminder that even in the face of huge economic disruptions and scandals, the wheels of justice turn, but often at a pace that can feel frustrating for those waiting to rebuild their lives.